Hey guys, welcome to a new video. I'm Steph West. I'm an LPC here in the state of Michigan, and today I'm going to dive again into something that the brain does. Now, it might not be your brain, but it's definitely my brain on occasion, probably a lot. And it's definitely a lot of people's brains process through information in a faulty way. Now, we do that for a whole host of reasons. This is going to be especially true if someone grew up kind of in a high chaos environment, if someone was responsible for helping manage someone's emotions in their more formative years. So we see this often in homes where there's addiction or abuse. We also see this often with people who maybe have a certain temperament where they're just a touch more sensitive. But what happens is our brain filters things inaccurately. So up on the board here, I have just 3 little statements. When something positive happens, we're able to perceive it in a positive way. So a positive thing occurs and my brain perceives it positively. It's also common in most all of our brains that when something happens negative, our brain is going to assume that a negative thing is happening. It's that neutral piece that gets really interesting because, like I said, in my brain, but also in brains that are adversely affected by trauma, by struggle, and even with just some certain temperaments, what happens is sometimes things that are neutral are almost automatically filtered negatively. Now, this does happen because of our, distorted thinking. It can happen just by we've generated certain brain patterns and habits. And sometimes, like I said, it's trauma affected. But the reason that it matters to point it out is, number one, to give you language to say, hey, there are times when something neutral happens and my brain filters it as a negative experience. So positives are good, negatives are bad, but neutrals are also bad, which means I'm engaging faulty mechanisms with how I think about things. That's especially important to consider when we're in relationships. So I know that because my brain often takes neutral things and filters them negatively, sometimes I've got some explaining to do. So when I'm talking to a friend and they say something and I feel myself affronted, I'll say something like, hey, I'm hearing this. Is that what you meant to say? And often they're like, no, Steph, that's not at all what I was saying. And I say, okay, because when I hear that, my brain immediately went to a place where it felt threat, or it felt that something was wrong, or I've done something wrong, or I've said something wrong, because my brain tends to filter in a more negative way, even when things are neutral. It also matters not just in relationships with others, but in my relationship with myself. I understand that I'm a touch more sensitive, and I also understand that I interpret things incorrectly sometimes and even inappropriately sometimes. And so I have to engage a lot of self-compassion. And I can do that by saying, Steph, your brain often does this in a kind of a knee-jerk way. It takes things that are neutral and it turns them negative. And so we know that that's happening. You've got to give yourself some grace here, but you also have the responsibility to go and seek clarification. You also have the responsibility to offer explanation if and when you're oversensitive. And you also have the right to kind of just understand that's where you're at right now. I hope through my own therapy, through my own clinical work, I hope that I get to a place where neutral is just neutral. That would be insanely cool. But that's not where I'm at right now. When someone tells me things like, I've disappointed them, I still hear that possibly I'm a disappointment. That's just where my brain's at right now. And so it's important that I take ownership of the fact that that's how my brain operates. And I seek clarification, I ask questions, I check in with friends and say, hey, this is what I'm noticing. Am I at all accurate right now? And from there, I can protect relationships, but also engage in self-compassion and understanding that my brain's doing what it's supposed to. It's trying to protect me. Now my job is to go out and figure out, is it sending me accurate signals, or might it be sending me faulty signals? Might it be overemphasizing risk when there's not risk? And so if that's helpful at all, use that language to explain to people with whom you're in relationship. Positive for me is positive, negative for me is negative, but neutral is also negative. And because that's true, I've got some skills that I have to build, and I have some self-compassion to engage. Hopefully that's helpful. If this is something that you appreciate, feel free to share it, like, comment, whatever that looks like. Anytime you intersect with this, it's much appreciated. Thanks so much.